Have you ever felt like the world just stopped making sense? Like the rules you thought you knew suddenly vanished, and you were left floating in a sea of beautiful, terrifying, and hilarious nonsense? Today, we're falling down the rabbit hole to rediscover a story that isn't just about a girl in a strange land. It's about the journey to find yourself when you're completely and utterly lost. This is the story of Alice's adventures in Wonderland. Chapter 1. Down the Rabbit Hole. Our adventure begins not with a bang, but with a moment of quiet, crushing boredom. A young girl named Alice sits by the riverbank, her sister reading a book with no pictures or conversations. What use is a book like that? In that moment of listlessness, a spark of the extraordinary appears. A white rabbit with pink eyes, muttering to himself that he's late as he pulls a watch from his waistcoat pocket. This isn't just an animal. This is a creature with worries, a schedule, and accessories. Driven by a burning curiosity that overtakes all common sense, Alice follows. She chases him across a field and dives headfirst into the rabbit hole after him, never once thinking how she might get out. The fall isn't a terrifying plunge. It's a slow, dreamlike descent through a well lined with cupboards and bookshelves. It's so leisurely she has time to pluck a jar of orange marmalade, only to find it empty. This is her first taste of Wonderland's nature, full of promise and disappointment. Finally, she lands, unhurt, in a long hall of locked doors. The key to her next step is a tiny golden key on a glass table, which opens a door no bigger than a rat hole. Through it, she sees the most beautiful garden she's ever imagined. But she's too big. Frustrated and trapped, she finds a bottle labeled, "Drink Me." She does, and she shrinks, becoming the right size for the door. But in her excitement, she's left the key on the table, now towering above her. Trapped by her own choices, she's small, helpless, and the key to her dreams is tantalizingly out of reach. Chapter 2. The Pool of Tears. In Wonderland, every action has a bizarrely amplified reaction. After eating a small cake that makes her grow to an enormous 9 feet tall, Alice's despair turns into a literal flood. She cries and cries until she creates a massive pool of her own tears. Just then, the white rabbit returns, and terrified by the giant Alice, he drops his fan and gloves and flees. As Alice fans herself, a new magic takes hold. She begins to shrink again, rapidly. She drops the fan just in time to avoid disappearing completely and rushes to the tiny door, but it's locked again, and the key is still on the glass table. As she realizes her predicament, her foot slips, and she plunges, splash, into the saltwater pool she just cried. Here, she's no longer a giant, but a tiny girl swimming for her life in her own sorrow, a powerful metaphor for being overwhelmed by one's own emotions. She's soon joined by a mouse and other creatures who have also fallen in, all of them looking for a way out. Chapter 3. A Group Race and a Long Tail. What happens when a group of dripping wet, confused creatures needs to get dry? In our world, you might use a towel. In Wonderland, you have a caucus race. After a painfully dry and boring history lesson from the mouse fails to work, a wise dodo proposes a race with no start, no finish, and no rules. Everyone just runs around until they feel dry. And the result? Everyone has won, and all must have prizes. Alice, chosen as the prize giver, hands out candy to everyone, and in a moment of beautiful absurdity, is awarded her own broken ring as her prize. The scene is a perfect parody of pointless bureaucracy and committee meetings. But the fragile piece is broken when Alice, trying to be friendly, mentions her pet cat, Dinah. The birds and mice, terrified, make their excuses and scatter, leaving Alice completely alone once more. Chapter 4. The rabbit sends in a little bill. Just as loneliness sets in, the white rabbit returns, still in a panic. Mistaking Alice for his housemaid, Mary, and he orders her to run to his house and fetch his fan and gloves. Alice, too startled to argue, obeys. Inside the rabbit's neat little home, she finds not only the gloves but another mysterious bottle. Hoping it will return her to her proper size, she drinks it and immediately grows so large she becomes trapped, filling the entire house. What follows is a chaotic siege. The rabbit and his animal friends try everything to get the giant monster out. They send a little lizard named Bill down the chimney, but Alice gives a sharp kick, sending him flying. They then resort to throwing pebbles at the window, which magically turn into little cakes. Alice realizes this is her chance. Eating one, she shrinks down, escapes the house, and flees into a nearby wood, safe for now, but forever changed. Chapter 5. Advice from a Caterpillar. Deep in the woods, Alice faces the most fundamental question of her journey. She finds a large mushroom, and sitting on top, smoking a hookah pipe, is a large blue caterpillar. His first words to her cut right to the core of her crisis. "Who are you?" Alice can't answer. She was someone this morning, but after shrinking, growing, and swimming in her own tears, she no longer knows. The caterpillar is unimpressed. Their conversation is a maddening, philosophical circle, as he dismisses her feelings and challenges her reality. He makes her recite a poem, which comes out all wrong, further proof that her mind is as jumbled as her size. Finally, before leaving, he offers a single piece of cryptic advice. One side of the mushroom will make her taller, the other, shorter. Alice is left to figure out which is which. Her experiments lead to a terrifying moment where her neck stretches like a serpent's, leading to a hostile confrontation with a pigeon who mistakes her for a predator. At last, by carefully nibbling both sides, she manages to return to her normal height, feeling a sliver of control for the first time. Chapter 6. Pig and Pepper. Now back to a manageable size, Alice comes across a small house with two strange footmen, one who looks like a fish, the other a frog, exchanging an invitation for the Duchess to play croquet with the Queen. Inside, she finds chaos. The air is thick with pepper, making everyone sneeze. The Duchess is nursing a baby, the cook is stirring a massive pot of soup, and a Cheshire cat is grinning from ear to ear. The scene is a whirlwind of violence and absurdity. The cook throws pots and pans, the baby howls, and the Duchess is casually cruel. She thrusts the baby into Alice's arms and leaves. As Alice carries the creature outside, she is horrified to see it slowly transform into a pig. Realizing she can't take it with her, she sets it down and it trots into the woods. It is then that the grinning Cheshire cat reappears, and in one of literature's most famous exchanges, he explains to Alice that everyone in Wonderland is mad. "We're all mad here," he says. "I'm mad." "You're mad." How does he know Alice is mad? "You must be," he says, "or you wouldn't have come here." He then vanishes, leaving only his iconic, lingering smile. Chapter 7. A Mad Tea Party. Following the cat's directions, Alice arrives at a tea party that is frozen in time. Here sits the March Hare, the Hatter, and a sleepy Dormouse. They cry, "No room," but Alice sits down anyway, ready for one of the most illogical and frustrating conversations ever written. They offer her wine when there is none. They ask her a riddle, "Why is a raven like a writing desk?" that has no answer. The Hatter explains that he quarreled with time, and now, for him, it is perpetually 6 o'clock, always tea time. They never have time to wash the dishes, so they simply move one place over. The party is a dizzying, hilarious, and ultimately exhausting look at a world where logic and time have completely broken down. Fed up with their madness, Alice simply gets up and walks away, vowing never to return. Chapter 8. The Queen's Croquet Ground. Alice finally finds her way into the beautiful garden she saw through the tiny door. But this is no peaceful paradise. She finds 3 gardeners, shaped like playing cards, frantically painting white roses red. Because they planted the wrong color, and if the fearsome Queen of Hearts finds out, it's off with their heads. The Queen soon arrives with her royal procession of living cards. She is a figure of pure, irrational fury. Her solution to every minor annoyance is a death sentence. Alice is swept into the strangest game of croquet ever played. The mallets are live flamingos, the balls are live hedgehogs, and the arches are soldiers bent in half. The game is chaos. The flamingos won't stay still, the hedgehogs wander off, and the Queen is constantly screaming for executions. It's a terrifying and brilliant satire of absolute power, where the rules are arbitrary and the stakes are impossibly high. Chapter 9. The Mock Turtle Story. Escaping the croquet ground, Alice is taken by a griffin to meet the Mock Turtle. If a queen of rage represents one emotional extreme, the mock turtle represents another, endless, weeping sorrow. He sits by the sea and sobs, telling the story of his life when he was a real turtle. His story is a masterpiece of puns and playful language. He tells Alice about his education at a school in the sea, where his teacher was a tortoise named Tortoise, because he taught us. He learned subjects like reeling and writhing, and the different branches of arithmetic, ambition, distraction, uglification, and derision. The entire conversation is a deeply charming and melancholic look at a past that may or may not have ever existed, a nostalgic dream within a dream. Chapter 10. The Lobster Quadrille. The mock turtle's sadness gives way to a moment of bizarre performance. He and the griffin describe, and then demonstrate, a strange and wonderful dance called the Lobster Quadrille. They dance around Alice, explaining the steps, and the mock turtle sings a hauntingly beautiful and nonsensical song about a whiting and a snail. The song is full of longing and a strange kind of beauty, a perfect encapsulation of Wonderland's soul. But just as the song ends, a cry is heard in the distance. The trial's beginning. Alice is whisked away once more, pulled from a world of sad songs into the heart of Wonderland's broken justice system. Chapter 11. Who Stole the Tarts? Alice arrives at a courtroom where the King and Queen of Hearts are presiding over a trial. The Knave of Hearts is accused of stealing the Queen's tarts. The scene is a complete farce. The jury, made up of various animals, is clueless. The witnesses, including the Mad Hatter, offer testimony that is completely irrelevant and nonsensical. During the trial, something incredible begins to happen to Alice. She starts to grow. And as she grows in size, she also grows in confidence. The oppressive, nonsensical rules of the court no longer seem so scary. The King and Queen no longer seem so powerful. She is becoming too big for their world, both literally and figuratively. The final piece of evidence is a poem with no meaning, which the king tries to interpret as proof of guilt. Chapter 12. Alice's Evidence. When Alice is called as a witness, she stands up so quickly that she knocks over the entire jury box with her skirt. Now a giant in this tiny, ridiculous court, she has lost all her fear. She challenges the king's authority and dismisses the evidence as meaningless. When the queen, in a final fit of rage, screams her signature line, "Off with her head," Alice is no longer afraid. She looks at the furious queen, the bumbling king, and the swirling cards and delivers the final, liberating truth. Who cares for you? You're nothing but a pack of cards. At that moment, the illusion shatters. The entire deck of cards flies up and attacks her. She screams, and suddenly she is awake, her head in her sister's lap on the riverbank. It was all a dream. But was it? As Alice runs off for tea, her sister remains, dreaming of Alice's dream, imagining the strange creatures and their world. The story ends on this beautiful, bittersweet note, a reminder that while we may grow up and face the dull reality of the world, the power of imagination, the memory of wonder, and the echo of a story like Alice's will stay with us forever. Alice's journey wasn't about conquering Wonderland. It was about conquering her own fear and confusion to find her own voice. It reminds us that even when the world feels mad, our own sense of self, our own logic, and our own courage are the most powerful things we have. Sometimes, to find out who you really are, you first have to be willing to get a little lost.